Adult films are one of the most consumed forms of media on the internet, with it being estimated that about 30% of all data being transferred online being adult content. In 2018 alone, the Orange Logo website, one of the most popular online adult content sites, saw over 42 billion visits for the year, which averages out at 115 million visits a day. More people visit adult film sites each month more than Hulu, Netflix, TikTok, and all of social media. It's actually reported that more than 60% of men and 40% of women have watched adult content. So it's safe to say that most of the world watches adult films. But the question is, do they know what they're really watching? Do they know what the adult film industry truly is and what they're participating in by watching it? What if I told you that just by watching an adult film, you are participating in a sex ritual? Hey guys, I hope all is well. Welcome to the Truth Is channel, where I post videos every other day exposing the truth. In today's episode, we will be talking about the untold occult history of the adult film industry. This video is a Patreon exclusive that I have heavily, and I mean heavily, censored to be allowed here on YouTube. The uncensored version of this video is up on Patreon and it's 27 minutes long, but I felt that this was such an important video with such an important message that I had to make a censored shorter version for YouTube. This is one of the most important videos that I've ever made, and even though I recommend you all watch it on Patreon, even watching this version should change the way you see the adult industry forever. If you want to watch the original uncensored version, become a Patreon member now by clicking the link in the description or in the comment section and get access to this uncensored version and 23 other exclusive videos. Thank you all. Now let's get right into it. While millions of people consume adult films on a day-to-day, very few know the true origins of where it comes from and why it was created. While adult films today are a legal and very profitable billion-dollar business, at one point, that wasn't the case. Before the 1970s, owning adult material in your home was considered illegal in the United States. It wasn't until laws were passed in 1969 and 1971 that owning adult-only material became legal. What led to the legalization of the adult industry was the sexual revolution that was taking place in the 1960s. A revolution that was led by the hippie movement and the rise of Playboy magazine. In the 60s, sexual liberation was the motto, and how people saw sex started to change, all due to one man, Aleister Crowley. While Crowley died on December 1st, 1947, his teachings took over the US during the hippie movement and the sexual revolution. What Crowley taught in his religion of Thelema became the core fundamentals of what became the hippie movement, the sexual revolution, and the rise of adult content. The adult film industry we see today is directly connected to Aleister Crowley and Thelema. Crowley is the reason the adult film industry is so big, and he is also the reason why Satanism has consumed pop culture. In this video, I will present the timeline and connections that prove Crowley inspired the modern adult film industry, and how to this day, his teachings are the principle of the industry that have taken over America. This story goes all the way back to the year 1904 when Aleister Crowley was visiting Egypt with his new wife to enjoy his honeymoon. While Crowley was in Egypt, he set up a lodge in which he began performing ancient Egyptian invoking rituals. One day, Crowley claims that his wife became possessed by one of these spirits he was trying to invoke. He claims that on March 18th, she told them she was possessed by they, who she explained were the god Horus. And on the 20th of March, she proclaimed that Horus stated, "The equinox of the gods has come." She then led Crowley to a museum to the steel mortuary known as the Stele of Anak. This led Crowley to experience a supernatural experience back on April 8th, where Crowley claimed that he was visited by a spirit called Awis, who was the messenger of Horus. Crowley claims that Awis told him he was chosen to be the prophet of Horus and that he was to bring in the new Aeon called the Aeon of Horus. Over the course of 3 days, Awis then gave him instructions to bring in this new world, and Crowley wrote it all down, telling Crowley that "do what thou wilt" shall be the whole of the law, and that it would be the credo of the new age. Crowley later published what Awis told him, calling it the Book of the Law. He then used the teachings of the Book of the Law to create his own religion called Thelema. Crowley taught through his religion that he and his followers were going to usher in the age of Horus, an age where the old Christian religion would be destroyed and replaced with the religion of Horus, an age where the only law was love under will. What Crowley taught his followers was everything that went against God, as his job given to him by Horus was to lead the destruction of Christianity and his followers. Crowley taught all about free will and encouraged his followers to abandon morality. He also taught his followers about gay love, telling his followers that Horus wanted them to embrace it. He told his followers that their way of living was going to become normal in the age of Horus, an age that they were expecting was coming soon. Crowley prophesied that people will abandon God, gay love would become accepted and embraced alongside many other liberating activities. A world where people have forgotten God and have begun to worship themselves instead. Through Thelema, Crowley was planning on secretly corrupting the world, and sadly he did. The main thing that Crowley taught through Thelema was sex magic. Sex magic, for those who don't know, is a form of occult magic that takes place during sexual intercourse. A basic understanding of what Crowley taught about sex magic was that while people were engaging in the deed, when they reached the climax, they essentially tap into a higher spiritual realm that would allow whoever is doing the ritual to communicate with deities and to unleash their true will. In Crowley's Thelema Lodge, he would have a group session in which a woman would have relations with multiple men while others watch and dish stuff to themselves, just like many do when they watch adult films. Crowley's teachings spread all over the world, and it did exactly what he was told it was going to do: corrupt the masses. While Crowley died in 1947, his teachings lived on and went on to change the world forever, all due to his disciples. In the 1940s, a man by the name of Alfred Kinsey, who was a sexologist and founded the Institute of Sex Research, published the Kinsey Reports, which changed the way the world saw sex forever. The Kinsey Reports are what influenced the legalization of the adult film industry and went on to influence the Playboy Company, and it was also even attributed by many as what sparked the sexual revolution in the 1960s. The sexual revolution is what led to the acceptance of adult films and allowed it to evolve into what it became today. What many people don't know is that Alfred Kinsey was a P-word and also a devout follower of Aleister Crowley and his religion of Thelema. In fact, the whole reason he dedicated his life to researching sex was to play his part in bringing in the Age of Horus. Normalizing sexual immorality was one of the tasks Horus instructed Crowley he must do in order to bring in the Age of Horus. Alfred wrote about Crowley in his book as he was a devout follower of his teachings. After Crowley passed away, Alfred went searching for his personal diary that was full of Crowley's sex rituals and even visited his Thelema headquarters lodge. In this photo, Alfred can be seen at the lodge with his lover and friend Kenneth Anger. Kenneth was an occultist who was considered the first to create a man-on-man adult film. He also made a film called The Invocation of My Demon Brother, which starred Anton LaVey, the creator of the Church of Satan. In this photo, you can see Anton LaVey dressed as the devil as he played the devil in the movie. Kenneth Anger actually admitted out of his own mouth that he visited Crowley's former home and tried to save his old paintings. He also talks about how he met Alfred Kinsey at Crowley's head Thelema Lodge called the Abbey.
You very early on started doing film as Curtis Harrington, with whom you started Creative Film Associates, went down to Sicily in 1955. And you actually visited the Telema Abbey, or you made also this documentary, which is unfortunately lost, another of all these films that, especially as Daniel pointed out yesterday already, we'd all be so interested in seeing. But this place was in the 20s, a kind of occult commune.
Well, it was just a farmhouse that he did not own. He just leased it in 1920. And Crowley, it was the first commune of people living together who were artists, and maybe they were having parties, possible. Since they made a religion of eros, so it's frivolous to call them parties. It's like putting a religious aura over as a kind of magical communion. Crowley was had many enemies, and he was kicked out of, in 1923, Sicily, of Cefalù, which is a few miles from Palermo, because he was English. And also, they thought he was doing black magic, which did not make Mussolini too happy. And so Mussolini said, get rid of that crazy, evil Englishman. And so he was given his walking papers, and he had painted all of the walls of a leased house, which isn't a good idea because he never owned the house. This was like, so wonderful oil paintings of, like his bedroom is called La Chambre de Cauchemar, the room of nightmares. And the whole idea of the paintings was to show what nightmares were like. And for instance, on the edge of his bed, he had all these demons looking over the edge of the bed at what was going on in the bed. So he had a great sense of humor. But Mussolini had kicked him out, and then they had ordered the paintings all covered with whitewash. So I spent, in 1955, a whole summer very carefully scraping off the whitewash and using diluted acid to soften it up and then remove it. But under it were these beautiful oil paintings by Crowley. And so that was a thrilling experience. And while I was doing it, the famous sexologist, Dr. Alfred C. Kinsey, came to visit me because he wanted to see these paintings. So there's a photograph of me with Dr. Kinsey in the house, which Crowley called the Abbey of Thelema, which means the will, which was after Rabelais. He adored Rabelais. So.
As you heard for yourself, Kenneth Anger confirmed that Kinsey was interested in Crowley and traveled to his former lodge. This is why Alfred appears so happy in this photo, admiring his idol Aleister Crowley's work, who can be seen pictured on the wall. I think I should make a full video on Kenneth Anger, as he plays an important role in Hollywood. If you guys want to see that, comment Kenneth Anger below. Alfred documented his accounts at Crowley's Thelema Lodge and saw evidence that Crowley and his followers had participated in many occult rituals with children. Alfred Kinsey himself was a sick P-word that did many sick experiments. He used over 300 kids, including babies, for his studies. Not surprising at all, Kinsey's studies were actually funded by no other than the Rockefeller family. They provided him with the funds to R-word these young victims. Kinsey was a really disgusting man, which makes sense since he was a follower of Crowley. He released his book of studies that was heavily inspired by Crowley's beliefs. Crowley's demonic teachings given to him by Horus was now to be used to change how people made love forever.
Those who would argue that the 60s marked the end of the good old days, the end of family stability, the end of everything being predictable and comfortable. And that was when divorce went up, and that's when people started to question family life and all of those kinds of things. And that's when sexuality ran amok.
The Kinsey reports were just the teachings of Thelema, repackaged for the public. Kinsey changed sex from something done when people love each other to something done solely for pleasure. He sparked the one-night stand culture we live in today. By the Kinsey report sparking a sexual revolution, he then sparked the rise of the adult film industry. Alfred Kinsey's work went on to inspire one of the pioneers of the adult film industry, the Playboy legend himself, Hugh Hefner. Hefner credited the Kinsey reports for inspiring him to create the first Playboy magazine. He even credits Alfred Kinsey in his first edition of his Playboy magazine that was released in the 50s. In this interview, he admits that he was inspired to create Playboy after reading the Kinsey reports. He also admits that his Playboy magazine helped usher in the sexual revolution and create the adult film industry that took over the country.
In the first introduction to the first issue, we called it The Other Great Book that was coming out in 1953. Max Lerner, the historian and a good friend of mine, said that Kinsey was the researcher and I was the pamphleteer.
Kinsey was the researcher and I was the pamphleteer.
And it's an interesting way of looking at it. I certainly do think that in a very real way, the sexual revolution began in 1953, with the second book and the beginning of Playboy.
So the studies of a P-word occultist inspired another sick occultist to create an entire industry that operated off the principles of Thelema.
With Dr. Judith Reisman, a world historian in the destruction of human sexuality. Dr. Reisman is recognized as an expert witness exposing the industry's hidden agenda.
Playboy sued you or you sued Playboy?
No, Playboy sued me for libel and slander.
What happened?
I won.
So how did we get here to where we're at today? Because I don't think pornography has always been such an epidemic cancer within our society like it is today.
No, not at all. We were, up to the end of the Second World War, a conservative Judeo-Christian nation. The turning point for all that was Dr. Alfred Kinsey, his book, Sexual Behavior in the Human Male, 1948. He was the father of the sexual revolution and therefore the father of everything that has come from that. And certainly one of the key things.
The adult film industry is all about Crowley's rituals, as Crowley encourages followers to participate in group rituals. Men were also encouraged to watch these activities at the Thelema Lodge and participate by pleasing themselves, essentially what the viewer is doing by watching adult films. The adult film industry was the next phase of the Kinsey reports. Hugh Hefner, just like Kinsey, was a Thelemite who practiced what Crowley taught, sex magic. The Playboy Press, owned by Hefner, actually published a book on sex magic back in the 1970s. The book was called Sex, Drugs, and Magic, A Journey Beyond Limits. The book was first published in 1973 as Sex and Drugs, A Journey Beyond Limits, but it was the writer's intention to call the book Sex, Drugs, and the Occult. However, the occult was removed at the order of Hugh Hefner himself. He did this in order to hide the Playboy magazine's association to Thelema and Aleister Crowley. The title alone lets you know that this book was all about Crowley's Thelema teachings. Crowley called this form of magic sex magic with a K at the end of the word instead of a C. The book was created to push sex magic alongside the sexual revolution. To this day, right on the Playboy website, you can find an article about how great sex magic is. Literally, they teach you how to use sex magic right on their website. The headline of the article reads, Sex Magic, the art of summoning in, Playboy takes a mythical dive into the old face and the occult. Right under they say this: sexual energy is natural, readily accessible, and incredibly powerful. Writes Sky Alexander in her introduction to Sex Magic for Beginners. And although she says right up front that the book is not about reviving the magic in your love life or getting more satisfaction from your intimate experience, both of these things are likely to happen when you practice sex magic. It's clear as day that Aleister Crowley's teachings of Thelema led Alfred Kinsey to make the Kinsey Reports, and the Kinsey Reports led to the Playboy magazines, and Playboy led to the golden years of the adult film industry that has taken over the world. Adult films come directly from the occult. This is their biggest secret. It is all made to guide you away from God. There is a reason adult films has taken over. It's a form of occult magic, and by watching it, people are participating in a Thelema ritual. Many big adult film stars nowadays are secretly Thelemites, like we saw with XXX Tentacion's former manager Bruno. Bruno is an occultist who practices sex magic, and he is on many of the big popular adult film sites. His adult movies are actually Thelema sex rituals recorded and replayed when people watch it. One woman who worked with him in the past admitted out of her own mouth that he had a pentagram under his bed so that he may steal the souls of women he hookups with.
The model house. He started the guy that had the model house. He was a male talent too. I actually can't stand him. His name's Bruno. He does some satanic shit now with the girls.
That's on Groupie Less, right?
Yeah, you know him.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Well, like I met him a couple times, like in clubs and stuff.
He's a known ground. He sacrifices girls' soul and he f***s them on top of his bed because he has like the gates of hell pentagon drawn underneath his bed, and he sacrifices girls' soul on top of the bed when he f***s them. So let the world know that, because that is some real demonic shit. That's not cool. And that revolves around XXX tension too.
Yeah, like that whole scene and stuff is like, you know, everything.
XXX does the same thing.
For real.
Yeah, he sacrifices his best friend's soul, Ski Mask. Sacrificed his soul. It's real.
As you heard for yourself, this woman confirmed that Bruno is a Thelemite who practices sex magic using other adult film stars. The audience is then watching these occult rituals play out, and in a way, blindly participating in them. Another woman said the same thing about Bruno, calling Bruno a sick man who stole the souls of women he hooked up with.
And that's when they started. He was 17 years old. They was 17, 18 years old, I think younger, hanging out at Bruno's house with a whole bunch of stars. That's why X and them were like insane kids, like doing screamo.
Yeah.
Bruno is like, there's videos of Bruno taking X to Disney. Like people said like Bruno was kind of wanted him to be like his little, his like mini, or like that. That's like they're twins, or like, you know, they acted almost like.
Yeah.
And X admired that. It was so weird, and that's when all those allegations came out. Like, beat up this girl that was at Bruno's house. It's crazy. No one knows that it was Bruno.
Really?
And now none of X's mom, his friends, none of those people up with Bruno, because he really got this kid into like a bad like lifestyle.
Is he doing something else or just different artists?
Bruno?
Yeah.
Bruno's still doing the same thing he was doing. This is when X was like 17. He had like short hair. He didn't even have like the two like blonde, and he was kid. Yeah. He was recording in his house. If I tell you some real shit right now, like I'm gonna tell you some crazy. Like these kids, like what I've heard, what they did at Bruno's house. Bruno did that in the house when I was there. Later on was, I guess after he started living with these kids, they started doing like brujeria. Like he started doing that shit, and like these are facts. Like Wi-Fi, funeral, and all these guys would say that. Even Juice WRLD would say that he was like, yeah, like Bruno was doing like they were doing some weird. Even X, supposedly they got some of the girls and did like some weird shit.
Yeah, they can
sacrifice, throwing blood just on them. I don't know.
Bruno is big in the underground music scene in Florida. Many upcoming Florida rappers end up crossing paths with Bruno. Bruno puts them in a film, they do a ritual, and shortly after they become stars. Crowley was told to teach the world about Thelema by these fallen gods, and he did just that. Like cancer, it spread from soul to soul, and today is one of the biggest problems men and women are facing. I never tell you guys what to do because that's not up to me. My job is to show you the truth that they're keeping from you. It's your job to do the right thing with the information and make your way back to God. While I do recommend anyone who struggles with watching adult films to give it up, I am not judging you. I simply just care for each and every one of you, and I don't want what Crowley did over 100 years ago to destroy so many people's souls. This is what the adult film industry truly is. This is what people are participating in by watching it. Remember, this was a highly censored version of the original that's on Patreon. I recommend everyone watch the original video, as I had to remove so many important parts to put it up on YouTube. I have placed a link in the comment section and in the description of this video. If you want to join my Patreon for just $3 a month, you get access to this full uncensored video and over 23 other exclusive Patreon videos. If you cannot join, I completely understand, and I appreciate you for watching. Well, that's it for this video, but before you guys go, I just wanted to ask you guys to like, comment, and share this video so that it will be recommended to others. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.